It results in a terrible echo if you have YouTube up and it is playing. So okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today for the regular meeting of the Electronic Records Working Group. We are meeting via Zoom and YouTube Live. It is 10:03 a.m. on August 2nd, 2023. I will begin with the customary roll call, and I will call out the voting members in the order I see you, and we can then move on to business. So when I call your name, please unmute and say the agency you are representing. So Tracy Burgess.
DOT.
Thank you. Jennifer Frazier.
President, State Law Library.
Are you at all able to have your camera on right now?
Yeah, hang on.
Thank you. Mark Pullian.
Legislative Research Commission.
Thank you. Catherine Giles.
Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives.
Rob Hill.
KDLA.
Jenny Link.
ACTCS.
Mark Manley.
Here on behalf of Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
Graham Gray.
Here on behalf of the Auditor of Public Accounts.
Catherine Estes.
DOT.
And Shamara Jackson.
Lexington Fayette Urban County Government.
Thank you. And that is all the voting members present. I will read off our guests. We have Drew Preston, Joseph Isaac, Brian Wixom, Becca Haldmeyer, Nicole Bryan, David Atha, Sarah Garrett, and Heath Reynolds, all of KDLA. So thank you very much again for joining us. We will move on to the first agenda item. I wanted to check, Tracy, did you receive the meeting materials? Okay, good. First agenda item is the approval of the June 7th, 2023 meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to review those, and did anyone find any issues?
I'll move to approve them as submitted.
Thank you. Do we hear a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 No opposed, I assume. All right. The June 7th meeting minutes are approved. So I'll move on to agenda item 2, which is announcements. I don't have a whole lot today. I covered a lot of the big ones in the June meeting in terms of personnel changes at KDLA. Big news in my corner of the world is I'll be submitting, hopefully one more member joining us. I'll be submitting paperwork to rehire for our electronic records archivist, which is a really important role here at KDLA. They deal exclusively with born digital records that are transferred to us from state agencies. So I've been treading water since it was vacant, but we really need someone to push through the backlog and keep things going. So luckily it's not that much of a backlog, but I'm going to be hiring for that soon, and we'll be advertising it. If you know anyone, encourage them to do it because it is a great job. We are also staring down the finish line with our NHPRC grant for digitizing the Kentucky General Court records and Kentucky issued naturalization records. These are being have largely been captured. We're still capturing some of the naturalization books. These will be formatted, processed, made to look really nice, have embedded metadata included that can be searched within our digital archives. So it's going to be great for historians, genealogists, and just the general public, anyone who's interested in family history and the original, boundaries of Kentucky that resulted from these lawsuits. So it's going to be a very nice thing to have completed and made available to everyone via our digital archives. So very much looking forward to that. That ends at the end of September. So we're in the last 2 months now. We've been joined by 2 more members for the purpose of the meeting minutes. Could you unmute and say your name and who you're representing?
Jeremy Foster, Secretary of State's Office.
I see that Glenn has joined us. Are you able to unmute from where you are? We see that you're present and can hear us. So if you figure out how to unmute, that would be great, but no pressure right now. We'll just carry on. We do have a quorum. I guess that's it for my announcements. I didn't have a lot this time. So I will move on to agenda item 3, which is new business. Has anyone noticed anything in electronic records management or the world at large, preservation or anything that you'd like to bring up? Now is the time. The floor is yours. Okay. So the next agenda item, we will truck right along, discuss guidelines for managing electronic communications in Kentucky public agencies. We more or less, completed this last time. There was the question of the definition that I quite accidentally left dangling. We didn't make a decision in the meeting. There was a little bit of ideas moving around via email. One of the agenda items was Graham Gray's comments. And if everyone has that handy or has formed an opinion on that, we can bring that up now and make sure that the favored definition is in place. And that was kind of, to my memory, the only thing left that needed to be decided. And this definition was for those who weren't with us, the definition of metadata as it appeared. There were several good ones, none we were thrilled with immediately, but I know the California definition was popular. I will go ahead and share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about in a moment. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. One, I know at least another person favors is the California government, section 7599 definition, metadata means data bearing the record of and not the content of communication, including but not limited to the time, date, location, duration, origin, or subject of communication, and the identity of the person, persons, group, or entities sending or receiving the message. That one covers quite a bit. It's dense, it's very dense, but very descriptive. But we have other ones that's more plainly stated. Metadata means information generally not visible when an electronic document is printed, describing the history, tracking, or management of the electronic document, including information about data in the electronic document that describes how, when, and by whom the data were collected, created, assessed, or modified, and how the data are formatted. The term does not include any of the following: spreadsheet formula, database field, an externally or internally linked file, or a reference to an external file or hyperlink. It is in that way or self-contained wrapping of the electronic document. So it says a lot. I believe California probably says that in fewer words. We've got New Hampshire, we have Arizona, which hopefully you can see. Does anyone prefer one of these definitions that is not California? That's the one I've kind of warmed up to. I see Catherine's unmuted. Do you have something?
Yeah, I like California, but I also like the language that says is not visible when printed or is not visible in a hard copy. I think that's an important distinction.
That was kind of the reason that I had originally leaned towards the first one. But I do like the language of the second one in that it seems to state a lot of the same information in a much shorter, like in a much more concise manner. But I agree with Catherine. I like that's the biggest part of the first definition that I really appreciate.
Okay, yeah, I can fully get behind that. We could we could handle it how we handled some of the other definitions in ours, and take the best parts of both and craft a new one without losing any of the description or content. So I think we could do that now, or we could do it between now and next meeting and look at it then. I don't believe this will be. When is commission, Catherine?
September 14th.
Okay, so we could still do it in early September and then decide to have the commission see it again. Of course, the advisory would not see it in that case, which is kind of what we want. Well, we don't have a whole lot to talk about today, so let's try and write this now, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. So I will pull up the guidelines document. I'm going to switch to sharing the guidelines document, so you may want to pull up the definitions on your end to continue seeing them. Okay. So what we're gonna do is after what we have now, which is a lot of words that don't manage to do as good as the 1 or 2 sentences we want to incorporate. I'm going to, right after this, start writing the new one, and then we can agree. If we need to vote, we can to replace the existing definition. So I'll start with the components here.
Your screen is black. I'm not sure if you're sharing. There it is. Okay.
Oh, okay, can this be improved upon in terms of and what is present in the California section specifically?
I think that looks good. I had put in the chat a possible definition. I don't know if you wanted to look at that and consider it.
Yes. So I don't like I still feel like we're plagiarizing. We would need to credit California with this. So
That's fair enough. Right? Yeah, you're fair. You're right.
Can you hear me?
yes.
Finally got unmuted. The metadata that's hidden from view is hidden not only from printing, but also electronic, depending on the software that you're using. So maybe you want to revise it and not say printing, you could say printing and other means of display or something. I'm not sure what the right words are there.
Is
And yeah, viewed or printed. Yeah. Viewed electronically or printed. Does that make sense to people?
We may not need electronically in there since we already said that it was an electronic document.
Well, yeah, you're probably right, Rob. So yeah, take the electronic out.
yeah,
Redundant.
viewed or printed.
I have a slight quibble. The end, it says entity sending or receiving the message. And I don't think metadata is only attached to messages. It would be attached to other electronic documents as well. So I mean, I guess if you're talking about sending or receiving, that's probably going to be a message, but it seems to me like this kind of limits it more to email than electronic records generally.
And you're right, Mark, we are trying to define metadata and not just in terms of communication. I think we can leave the message talk in there, but we also need to include what else it could be, like the creator of a Word doc, the creator of so many things.
I think you can just change communication to document.
That works.
There are 2 instances of it that can just be document. And then after or subject of the document, comma, and if applicable, the identity of the person, persons, group, or entity sending, receiving, or creating.
Is that too limited though? Should we talk about, should we say file instead of document, considering that some electronic records are actually images? And when I think of document, I think of, and I apologize, I know this is semantics, so please, if document is good, then I don't wanna.
No, that's a good point. We work in lots of images with metadata.
I saw that Catherine had record instead of document as well, so maybe I think that's actually better than file, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with record. File is kind of takes things out of context.
But now we've got bearing the record of and not the content of the record.
Well, we can, I wanted to change that anyway.
Okay.
See.
Bearing the
It'd be a history of the record. It's kind of what it is, isn't it?
history and description.
Yeah,
Maybe like reflecting the history of the record. The more words you change, you might get out of your plagiarism thing.
I know, keep it coming. So
Before I forget, I think we need to delete out the first paragraph that's right above it, or we'll be contradicting ourselves.
yes, for sure. I was gonna do that when we're done, but we have many copies of this. I can go ahead and take care of that.
Maybe do a comma after information also. Information, comma, generally not visible.
Generally not visible in electronic record. What was your verb?
Bearing, reflecting the history.
I want to include description in that too, because and Is that okay? Does that work?
Description of the record and not its contents.
Would it make more sense to say, but not its contents? Seems odd to be saying and not its
Yeah.
contents.
History and description of the record, but not its contents.
Gotcha.
I don't know if the but not limited to is wholly necessary, including but not limited to. Just because you got two buts there pretty close to each other.
Well, I almost believe you have to have something in there that says that there is a possibility of more or of additional items to say its contents and then not have, like, just to have the including.
It, it's also one sentence. We could bust it up a little bit and say, but not as contents, period. This can include, but is not limited to the time. That separates it a bit.
Yeah, I like that.
Subject of the record instead of document.
I do think we need to leave some of the message talk in there because that's one prime example.
About identity of the person's group or entity created the document, or if applicable, who sent. Man, that's too jumbling. I'm trying to like have
I know.
one part of it being the creation of a record itself, and then the other part being, and if it's sent, you know, this applies also.
Sending, receiving, or creating a document, whatever. The fact that it's send and receive indicates it's a message.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could just say sending, receiving, or creating the or an electronic record.
Yeah.
What about, just to add more words to it, sending, receiving, creating, or revising? Because sometimes you'll have, if you have a second person come in and
Right.
change something, it might track that another
Yes.
author changed something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Any other ideas or comments?
Agree with something Mark said last time. We should write justify. We should write justify every paragraph in the document. I know it's a minor point, but it looks a lot better when you do.
Okay. That can be done in the formatting. I'm going to make a note of that. So the version that I want to put forward next time it's reviewed is we're working in Word here. And we've worked in Google Docs, and then strange things can happen when you move from Google Docs to Word to PDF. But the final product I want to be a PDF that you can click around in. Literally, the draft I have, you can actually click on the headings and zip right to where you want to be in the document. I also need to make sure that these page numbers are still correct. So when I put it forward for review from advisory and the commission, it's going to be a little more polished, but working with it as we are. I haven't done that since it was reviewed last time, I think. So yeah, we'll make it justified. Any other?
Derek?
Yes.
One more thing you might want to do on the metadata section is have it match the grammar and format of the adjoining sections. It has something like metadata consists of, or metadata is defined as with your information. Because right now the first sentence doesn't actually have an active verb.
I got you.
You know, now that you went back to the top again, the whole thing's about electronic communications as a subset instead of electronic records. So now I'm wondering if it was better to limit it to the messages. I like the way it is right now. I think it's a better definition of what metadata per se is. But since the whole thing's about electronic communications, I'm wondering if it should be more tailored to
I hear what you're saying, but I think we did a great job defining metadata and how it applies to communications by leaving that verbiage in there.
Okay.
Also, when it comes to like attachments and stuff, people are sending records. I don't know if other people agree with you. This isn't.
I think the point about attachments is right, because that's kind of what I was thinking. You send a draft and you've got the attachment to it, and most of the metadata is probably going to be more in the attachment than it is in the email.
Good portion of it. Yeah, I like what we all put together here. I think this it's highlighted, so I might as well mention it. I think this is going to be linked in the text and not just be a hyperlink, which that can happen when I format it. Believe that is all. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed with this document before we seek approval again?
I noticed something in my ancillary review of the document. A few of the hyperlinks are going to wrong places. And if you want, I'll just link the information in chat for that with the pages. Or if we want to review them, because there's a few that I couldn't figure out where they would go to when they were updated.
Well, a new website is a blessing and a curse. That has happened since we dropped those links in there. So, I mean, we could go through them now, or I could just amend the links outside of the meeting, because let's just do it outside of the meeting. I don't know if everyone wants to see that. But thank you for catching that. That may have been mentioned before. It totally slipped my mind. So I will make sure that the links actually point where they need to go. All the content hasn't changed. It's just the URLs have. Any other comments or observations?
Go for it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to format this. I'm going to make sure all of the header material is clickable as we've wanted it to be, and then make it a nice PDF. Once I do that, I will send it out to the group ahead of its review. Definitely feel free if you see anything that doesn't look right, let me know. Otherwise, we'll try and get this in front of the advisory again. So.
I think we discussed once before too, that after it went to the advisory, it would come back to us before a full recommendation to the commission, right?
Yes, I'd like to say pending, if it gets approved and there aren't any changes needed, which one can hope for. I do not see that happening, but if changes are requested again, we will of course hash it out in this meeting. Yeah, I'm not gonna, but if it's approved, I'd like to move the football along and get it done, get it viewed by the commission, which is the end goal in seeking their approval. I think we have sufficiently reworded enough to make the initial comments from the commission happy, but I do care about what the advisory has to say on the matter too. So does that sound okay, Mark?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's just if, yeah, any material changes to the document will be brought back to this group in at our next meeting. I think that should coincide. If not, we'll make it work. But, okay, well, I will get this formatted and send it out to you. Right. If there are no other comments about the guidelines document, we will move on to the electronic signature record keeping guidelines. We did cover some things we want to add to it. I did not do that between meetings. We were also curious as if there was any more content from the Secretary of State's office that needed to go into it in terms of e-notarization and stuff. Not to put Jeremy on the spot, but is there anything together or maybe a resource you can point us towards?
For the e-notarization?
Yeah.
I'll send something out to you and I'll talk to our business director and get something out to you guys on that.
Excellent.
Because they've got new handbooks and all kinds of things on that now, so.
I think that would make it a stronger document to raise awareness about it, what it can do, what it cannot do. Along the, I mean, that's as vital as the other stuff we talked about, like where it's more commonplace now. It still needs to be an agreement ahead of time between the parties doing the signature. Some of it appears to be tradition, keeping the wet signature alive, like the executive journals and everything. So we'll try and get that all on the page. It'll be within Google Docs and nothing will be actually written or altered outside of the meeting. I like to drive that point home. It'll just be where we come up with suggestions that will then be discussed and hopefully approved within our meeting. So Any other thoughts on this document? I don't want to dwell on it too long because nothing has been proposed. Okay, I don't think it's going to be that hard to change. So we'll oh, Tracy Burgess sent a chat.
Yeah, it's more hyperlink updates off of for the signature guidance. I was just
Excellent.
putting them in there.
This is one meeting chat that I will be retaining for a while. Okay, thank you.
I do have one question mentioning about the links. As I recall, going from memory here, seems like some of the links were kind of old. And I mean, not just the links, but the things they were referring to, like stuff from like 15 years ago and everything. And I'm sure things have changed since then. So, I mean, I'm not a technical person. That's not my field, but it seems like maybe we need to have someone who's more technically oriented, check to see if there's something more current that we can use these things.
Yeah, that's what happened on one of the links for the FIPS 186-3. It's been superseded twice, most recently in February of this year, which brought it up from, I think, 2009 is what was referenced in the document. So
yeah, this document's from 2011, I think. So everything in it's going to be old. And if the things we linked to weren't updated, I can't hold them too accountable because we are just now updating ours. But we will do that. Find some fresher and relevant links if something else supplants what's on the list.
I think it would be a good idea to either abandon the resources section or just refer to the American Bar Association. But I don't think the rest of the references are current enough, appropriate enough. Probably shouldn't be in there at this date.
Yeah, there is the question of, because it was a lot newer and fresher and back when this document was originally drafted, where more context might have been needed to see how other places are implementing this. And I think I said last meeting, if you've bought a home or entered into any sort of contract lately, you've probably done some e-signatures. So it's more ubiquitous than ever and seems to be continuing. So we'll look at that. I think the bar association's a fine one to share. I need to review it again, but
yeah, that one also is a broken link that I couldn't find reference to how they've changed it, because the entire website base hyperlink for them has changed.
okay.
Yeah, that's the difficulty of links.
Mm-hmm. Try to avoid them, maybe just the one, if we can find a good one. I think we can flesh out the guidelines portion and make it a little bit truer guidelines. I do have this in Google Docs. If you don't have a link to it and would like one, let me know if you're coming up with some ideas, or if you want to wait till our September meeting, just let me know. We can do it then. Especially if you don't have time to get in there, I understand. So any other comments about the direction you'd like to see this take, or do we have enough to chew on until next time?
Enough.
Okay. All right. Well, that being, yes.
If you get a chance to look at the shortened version of the messaging guidelines or work on it, I think that's the rest of the year. We need to give some attention to that.
Yeah, I feel we can get, if not a draft, at least the bones of it together, and then we can look at it, deciding what to bring forward from the longer document. And then we discussed having a lot of, well, links to KDLA's website and to other guidance to really just,
Graphics,
yeah,
friendly
graphic
stuff.
Yeah. Luckily, there are people that work here that are better at that stuff than me, so I think we're in good hands. We can provide something. I don't want to promise next meeting, but this year for sure we can work more on that. So that will be agenda recommendations. I was just getting that, so we'll discuss that next time for sure. And any other agenda recommendations for next meeting that we aren't obviously going to talk about already? Okay. Well, if you do have agenda recommendations, you are more than free to just shoot me an email between now and our next meeting, and I'll see that it gets on the agenda. Yes.
One, I guess a point of, do we need to take an official vote to send this to the advisory? That way it's reflected in the minutes that we've adopted that those metadata changes and that everyone's okay with it. We kind of did a consensus, but I think some of the minutes can reflect it. I think we should take a vote. So I would move to submit the that document to the advisory committee for their consideration, and to move it forward to the commission in the event that there are no substantive changes to it by the advisory committee.
All right. Do we hear a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Well, thank you. We will pending formatting and format change to PDF, we will submit that to the advisory when they next meet. So thank you, Mark. That was a good call. And are there any more agenda recommendations for next meeting while we're on that item? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Second.
We'll vote on this too. All in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you all so much. I think we got a lot done today. So appreciate it.
Thank you.